Hey guys, I know it's been a while since I've posted, and that is because I just did a big basement remodel, which involved, actually, it was a really big project, and now my studio is in a different location, and things are still getting set up, so I didn't want to delay any further. I had an idea, and I wanted to share that with you now, so that's what I'm going to do. And I'll continue working on my studio, and I'll post an update about it when I'm ready. Okay, so in this video, I want to talk about a ridiculously important beginner piano technique, which is often overlooked, and it's also often um, easily glossed over, if you will. And that's this idea of legato playing and one hand's legato playing covering for the other hand's movement of a chord or releasing of a chord or rearticulation of a note or something like that. It's easily missed because people are usually going too fast to catch it. So I want to use this sort of as a little lesson and explain this and kind of put a spotlight on it and show you how I deal with this. This is very much intended for beginners, but any of those of you who are teaching, this is something that you should definitely look out for, because if a student doesn't sort this issue out, they're definitely going to hit a roadblock later on, because we use legato playing for more than just sounding pretty and connected and everything. We use legato playing because it physically changes the relationship by which you move your hands and your wrists and everything. It like for example, if you're holding a key and you play legato to any other key or whatever, you're using a different muscle grouping and your fingers and everything, and how you extend and contract your hand. That's all a different relationship, and a much more reliable one, by the way, for this kind of playing, compared to if you move, you play this note and then you like move somewhere else and you play this note, or like that, right? That's kind of coming from farther back in the arm, and that's going to be less accurate, and beginners tend to do that a lot, and they don't even realize it. So, and if they're playing fast enough, you might not even realize it if you're listening to them. So anyway, I'll go into more detail in just a second. So the first thing I want to bring up is this piece called Gavotte, which is, I guess, an arranged handle piece from the Piano Adventures adult book. It's kind of early on in the book, and I use this piece after dealing with many students working through this book. I use this piece as sort of a test for this particular issue. Can the student play a legato line and rearticulate a chord in the other hand while maintaining said legato line? So that should look like this. Right? It sounds simple and normal or whatever, but usually what I hear is this. And because there are some instances of both hand rearticulation of the notes, that is sort of easy to gloss over. And it sounds like it's a little issue, but it's really not. And I'll go into more detail as to why that is in just a minute. But let me slow that down. Right? That's what it should sound like. So the right hand's got a melody, and the melody needs to be sustained over the left hand's chord change. And some of the notes of the chord change are rearticulated. And so the reason why this is an issue when it's not done correctly is because what's actually happening in this example is that the left hand's rearticulation of the chord change is interrupting the right hand's melody, which means the hands aren't actually independent. And the only solution to this, in my opinion, is to really slow it down. And if you have to, go to the note before the chord change, or before the change, or before wherever the action is. Go to the note before that and hold the note. And then process things logically, like an order of operations thing, instead of in time. Like so. So hold the E, instruct the student to hold the E, release the left hand, and then from this E, we're going to go to the D, and we're going to play our next chord at the same time. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to separate the action of the left hand's chord from the E to the D. Or if you're not looking at the music, of course, the melody. Right? It seems like such an obvious thing, and I say, I will say that many students just gloss right through this and they have no problem with it. It comes very natural to them. But I've seen in a number of students, particularly older adults, this tends to happen. where they can't quite separate things and they never think to like put a magnifying glass on it and work it all out. And usually because they're trying to like make sure that they're following a pulse or whatever and get to the next beat in time, so they just sacrifice this. But then, there's a level on how, there's a cap on how difficult music you can handle if you don't conquer this particular issue, because there's many pieces that are just completely reliant. In fact, like virtually every piece is reliant on one hand covering for the other, and having the movement be in the fingers, as opposed to like in the forearm or the shoulder or whatever, farther back. Okay. So that's what that should sound like. So little farther on, I have the Bergmuller number 1 piece, and in each one of these measures across the bar line, there's an opportunity to work this out. So like, here's how I might hear a student do this. You can't really hear that I'm doing anything wrong there, and that's just because I'm going fast enough. If I slow it down, it sounds like this. Right? It's less musical because it's got all these interruptions. Oops, well, I did the right thing there. Okay? So it's obviously not what we want. We want the legato line to be sustained, and the supporting part's really just a supporting part. I think one of the reasons that students get tripped up on this is because they see like a whole note on the left hand, and they're like, oh, well, I got to fill the whole measure with the whole note, which leaves basically no time to set up a rearticulation of that same chord. And when in reality, we actually will shave off a little bit of the length of the note and move early, and like slightly before the beat. So maybe on the and of 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, like that, so that we have enough time to actually make the chord change without interrupting the melody. Musicians will take this for granted, or like seasoned musicians will take this for granted, but somebody that's working this out for the first time, they might think, oh, well, I have way less time to move than I think. When in reality, they have a lot more time. They can take as much time to move as they need, because they can shave off more and more and more time, however much is necessary in order to change the chord. So in each one of these, that's what it should sound like. And so on. See if there's another example farther in, maybe towards the end. Right here. Right hand plays the C, you hold the C, last note, release the left hand, find your new position while you're still holding the C, and then you make that connection. You just practice that. Order of operations. Legato first. That's what it's going to sound like for a student who's really going to be successful at working that out. Eventually that'll lead to this. Right? You don't even notice how much I'm shaving off on the left-hand chord there, but it's better than this. Right? Little breaks everywhere. Same thing here. And then here. Although that's written in. So that's where they actually go out of their way to tell you to make that legato connection. But all of the other places, it's not really obvious. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. I know this seems like a little thing, a particular thing, but I mean, you follow it up to like Bach and Chopin and whatnot. If the student hasn't worked this out, there's all kinds of coordination problems that this turns into. When in reality, you can spot it on page 77 of the Piano Adventures Adult Book 1. Towards the beginning of the book, you can spot whether or not someone's going to start to struggle with this and catch it right then when it's really, really easy. And I actually just had a lesson where this came up, and so that's why I was motivated to make this video now and check in with you guys. And of course, I will start putting content out now that everything's starting to get assembled, all my gear's coming back and being unpacked and everything. I will follow up with more stuff soon. So stay tuned, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.